This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. Cassian goes to a brothel where he's patted down to make sure he has no weapons or recording devices so he can go and ask about his sister. And once he's in, he's able to speak with one of the owners and he asks her about her. She goes to check and see if she can have any information if she's there. And while that's happening, he is harassed by a few of the customers in there. Returning, the owner tells Cassian that she has no dancers from the planet, and with it, Cassian begs if she can give him any information. And with it, after figuring out it is his sister, she says that there's nothing she could do to help him, and Cassian goes to leave. Following him down the street, the two people from the bar go and try and take money from Cassian, holding him at blaster point. Cassian goes and begins to fight them off, knocking one of them down and Rustling takes the blaster from the other one, and he is able to get it and hold him down at blaster point. The man goes to check on his friend and realizes that he was killed by the impact of hitting the ground. And with this, the guy begs for Cassian to spare his life and even starts to make up a cover story for how his friend died. But Cassian does not trust him and kills him. Cassian runs for his ship and takes off, returning to the world of Ferrix. The next morning, Cassian and his mother's droid B2 Emo goes and looks for Cassian, finding him asleep, who has a dream back to when he was a child and a separatist freighter crashed on his home planet. With this, Cassian goes to the droid and tells him that he did not see him yet and to lie for him, and the droid agrees to. Cassian then goes to find his friend, getting ready for work, and goes to set up an alibi so he will not be questioned for this murder and could try to get away with it. Meanwhile, Deputy Inspector Cyril Karn, a member of the Premor Security Inspection team, is wanting to investigate into the murder of two members that Cassian did, with them being members of the corporation, and with it, his boss just wants to simply file it away, while Cyril wants to go and get justice for them. And with this, Cyril is furious at his boss, who wants to make things as easy as possible. Knowing that his alibi may not stick and he needs to get out of there, Cassian goes to his good friend Bix Colleen and asks her to get in contact with one of her contacts that could go and get him off-world by giving him money for an Imperial item he has. And after some convincing, she does decide to go and help him. And on his way out, he runs into her current boyfriend, Tim Carlo, and they have a quick conversation about her and how Tim may not be ready for her. Cassian once again flashes back and remembers when he was a child and joined the party to go and investigate the crashed ship. Meanwhile, Cyril Karn is looking through the flight logs for the planet and quickly figures out which ship is most likely the one that belongs to the killer. And with it, he orders for some of the people who work under him to go and look into what ship this is and who it belongs to. On his way to go and do the next scene to help cover up his murder, Cassian is confronted by someone he owes money to and promises he will pay him back, just not right now. And with it, he is able to get away for now. Bix goes to contact Luthen, and with this, Tim tries to go and follow her, but she's able to evade him and makes it to a repair shop where she goes to contact Luthen Rail after going up a chimney and getting the contact equipment ready. Cyril is pleased to learn that they have figured out the planet that the ship is going to, and with this, he is able to go and send out an alert about looking for the person who committed a murder there, knowing what world Cassian is from since he mentioned it inside the brothel. Cassian then goes and switches out the ID signature of the ship he used, which was borrowed, and asks if he could use it again tomorrow. When he's denied that, he begins to go and make up another plan. Cassian then remembers both leaving his sister and the destruction of a mine that he looked at when joining the party to go check out the crashed ship. And after this, Tim goes and sees the alert sent out by Cyril Karn to try and figure out who committed these murders, and with him seeing some stuff that tips him off it could be Cassian, he considers going and contacting them. Cassian returns home, and his adopted mother begins to question him about what's going on since she saw the alert that is describing someone who is almost certainly him. Although Cassian avoids answering the question, he does have her concerned and goes to leave. He then meets up with Bix, who he tells he'll just sell the material box to so he could get out of there, but she said she already got in contact with the person and that he has to go through with this since he's already on his way. Cassian agrees and begins to put together his plan of escape. Tim does decide to contact the authorities and goes to do that. And once it goes through, Cyril is very pleased to go and learn that they have a new suspect. And Bix goes over to Tim's house so she can spend the night with him. As Cyril goes to confide in one of his fellow officers, as Cassian prepares to make his escape, getting the box ready to sell, and remembers once again as his group went to investigate the ship. Luthen Rail lands on the planet as Bix leaves Tim's house to go and meet him. Meanwhile, Cassian goes and prefers a comlink in case he has to get in contact with B2, as his mother looks over the blow dart staff that he held as a child. Cassian remembers back to when his leader was killed by a separatist who survived the crash, whom the kids quickly take down with the darts. The kids take away their leader, although it's not clear if she's dead, as Cassian stays behind. Returning to the present, we see Cassian going and negotiating to get off world with no questions asked. Unknown to him, there's already a task force on their way to go and arrest him. Meanwhile, Luthen is able to get towards the city, having to take a transport where he talks to an old man who is saying how great times used to be and not really liking how things are now. Cassian then remembers how he wanted Megan to investigate the ship and got extremely furious when looking at his reflection. Luthen then gets off the shuttle and the man is still talking to him, and he continues on into the town where Bix meets up with him so she can help get him to Cassian. We then flash back to how Marva, Cassian's adopted mother, went and found him on the ship. As she says the Republic is coming, we cut back to the present as we see the officers land and go to arrest Cassian. We then see how Merva went and tranquilized Cassian to go and protect him, although she did say that his friends killed a Republic officer, even though the officer was from the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The officers arrive at the Andor home and begin to tear it apart looking for evidence of where he is. They intercept B2 as he returns home, and Cassian tries to contact the droid. With this, they are able to triangulate his position and figure out where he is. Cassian begins his meeting with Luthen as the troopers go and leave his home, causing many of the people to start freaking out and harassing the troops, and one of them to go and warn Bix. Cassian begins with his offer of 40,000 credits for the box, and Luthen begins to question it, saying that he knows he intends to run, and with it, he won't be able to come back if it doesn't work. And at the time, the informant gets to Bix, and she is at first confused, but quickly realizes that it was Tim who went and sold Cassian out, and is extremely mad at him for that, and goes to go and help Cassian. And Cassian, at the time, begins to tell Luthen how he was able to steal this, just pretending to be an Imperial, and with that, he was able to sneak into their base and steal this. He then gets extremely suspicious of Luthen, who begins to list off many facts about him. He was able to explain it just saying he was interested in Cassian and wants to recruit him. A warning bell is sounded by many of the people throughout the town. Luthen quickly asks Cassian what that is. After Cassian explains, Luthen asks for his comlink, goes and destroys it, telling him that he shouldn't have it and they could trace him with it. And they go and prepare to fight the officers coming after Cassian. Bix is captured by one of the officers as she is going to help Cassian, and Luthen sets off explosives he set at the door to go and throw the officers back. And Cassian tries to retrieve the box, but quickly realizes that it's hopeless, and with it, the entire factory begins to collapse around them, and they're barely able to escape through a tunnel. Bix is handcuffed to a building as Cassian and Luthen manage to escape out of the building and continue to fire upon the officers chasing them. Tim goes to try and help Bix, but is shot down by one of the officers. Cyril goes and divides his forces so he can have some of them go into buildings and ambush Cassian. Meanwhile, Marva is able to scare off the officers with her, who go to try and back up their troops. Cassian then goes and sees some aliens fleeing from where Cyril went into to try and ambush Cassian, and with that, he's able to go in there behind him and ambush Cyril, taking his comm and destroying it and tying him up. One of the officers tries to take a ship away, but a large piece of junk was attached to it, which causes the ship to crash. Cyril is quickly found by some of the other officers. They manage to shoot down a speeder that they think Cassian is inside, but it's quickly realized to be a trap when the speeder blows up, taking out more of the officers. Cyril is completely traumatized by this, which buys both Cassian and Luthen enough time to escape from town and head towards his ship. A flashback happens to when Merva went and brought Cassian to her ship. We see a terrified Bix looking at the body of Tim. Cassian and Luthen reach Luthen's ship and escape from the planet. And flashback to Cassian leaving his home planet for the first time. After escaping, Luthen goes and tries to convince Cassian to go and join his cause, and Cassian is reluctant, but after being offered a lot of credits, agrees to do the job for Luthen. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, ISB agent Deidre Merrow goes to work, and there she meets with other ISB officers, and her superior officer asks what the ISB is for. Giving the textbook definition, she is told she is wrong, and she is given the correct explanation of how the ISB seeks out the sickness in the galaxy. And then they go and discuss the events on Ferrix, which happened with Andor. Although they haven't been able to fully identify what's going on, they definitely don't like it. And Deidre checks through the information, seeing some information that catches her eye. After this, Cassian shaves and comes up with the name Clem, so he doesn't use his real name while in this operation. Luthen goes and gives Cassian a kyber crystal important from the fall of the Rakatan Empire, and with this, he tells Cassian, although it is worth a lot of money, he expects to have it back, likely as a test of Cassian's integrity and to see what he would do when given something valuable. Luthen then goes and talks to the leader, Val, and tells her that she needs to go and use Cassian, although using the fake name he came up with. And with this, she's eventually convinced to do it. As Cassian watches from inside the ship, he is briefly tempted to go and steal the ship, but after being confronted by Luthen's AI built in, he just decides not to and goes out to do the job. The ISB is furious at Cyril Karn and the rest of his agency for failing this spectacularly and use this as an opportunity to put the Empire in full control of that system, taking them out of law enforcement and putting them as their new bosses. Deidre uses the fact that the box that we know Cassian stole was there to go and try and investigate into a sector that is not under her jurisdiction, having one of her workers go and bring this request to the ISB officer in charge of that sector. And after we see Luthen going to land on Coruscant, placing on multiple things to disguise himself, including a wig and more sophisticated clothing to go and run his legitimate business. Cassian learns about the history of the planet and was told that all the people were forced out of their homes and into new ones by the Empire so they could go and do industrial work. Meanwhile, Deidre's attempt to go and investigate into this is blocked by the ISP officer of that sector, and she says she's going to go to the higher ups in the ISB with this, and he seems completely unfazed by this. Returning to their camp, the members of the group are concerned and do not trust Cassian, and with this, their leader is trying to convince them, even though she herself is not fully convinced by him being there. Cyril Karn goes to visit his mother, who first slaps him and then hugs him, likely because she knows of what happened and is glad her son is alive. Mon Mothma goes to visit with Luthen to see if she could get something for her husband, but that is a cover, and she actually is there to see if she could get another person into their group, being people planning to take down the Empire. And with this, Luthen being a little paranoid, says he doesn't trust anyone else and they need to keep the group small. Luthen then comes back out with her and offers her a different gift for her husband, which she gets and could return it if her husband doesn't enjoy it. The rebels guy on the inside goes and also says how much he distrusts Cassian and doesn't wish for him to be here. And with this, Cassian is still saying that he is going to be loyal. Meanwhile, back on Coruscant, Mon Mothma returns home and begins to talk to her husband, and he tells her of the plans for a dinner party later that night. And with it, she is a little reluctant until she sees the guest list, where she sees many of the Imperial higher ups will be there. And after that, she's completely furious at her husband for going and inviting these people there to their home because of the horrors they're committing and how they are going and hurting people and making them starve. Cassian is shown a model of the compound they're going to be attacking, and with it, he is shown where their defenses will be and told the plan. With this, he is asked if he is going to be with them for this, and there he goes and says that he is going to be fully willing to do this. Meanwhile, back on Coruscant, Deidre's request is shot down by her superior, and the other ISB agent is very pleased. She's also told that she's there to represent and that she was going to be sent more work with prisoners, and she's been doing very well with that so far. And Cassian is given far more detailed plans of the base so he can look over them, and some stuff about the local culture, which he's expected to study overnight. Cyril Karn's mother goes and insults her son by telling him how much he failed and says she'll help him find a new job. With it, it's clear that Cyril doesn't want to be here and is truly angry at her, but is trying to hold it all back. Andor speaks with one of the rebels, talking about how he was in an Imperial prison, and after he goes and tells Andor about everyone and how they are all dedicated to the fight and will not give up on it. Mon Mothma gets into a fight with her daughter, who does not want to go to a place with her, thinking it's only a publicity stunt, and her husband sides with her daughter. Back on the planet, Cassian speaks to one of the rebels who talks about both his manifesto and a device he has to go through the systems and to help calculate with help hyperspace jumps and other things. And with it, he compares the two, saying are they both similar. Cassian clearly wants to leave and is relieved when he is called away to go and talk about the plan. There, he realizes that they don't even know how to go and get the car out. And with it, he says that he's going to pilot because he knows how to do it, and with this, he doesn't want to be risking his life without more of a guarantee, and this will help ease him for this. They begin to go and start the final preparations for the plan and to do some training. Back on Ferrix, the ISB goes to convert one of the buildings into their ISB headquarters for that planet. The rebels go and practice doing the march up to the facility to make sure that they look like they belong there, and are quickly scared away and have to hide their weapons when a TIE fighter passes over. A little later, Cassian gets into a fight, not wanting his stuff to be looked at, and after he decides to go and put the kyber crystal on, Deidre and one of her workers go and talk about how she may be overthinking this, but talking to him, she quickly realizes that she is not, and everything is too random to be random, and everything has to be planned and coordinated. And with it, she goes to look deeper into this. Back with Cyril, his mom is telling him how she's got in contact with his uncle and that he agrees that Cyril shouldn't have been in law enforcement, and with this, he's going to try to find him a new job. And Cyril is even more furious with this, wanting to go and hunt down Cassian and other criminals. But with it, he is still holding back with his mother. Cassian and the others continue on towards the base to set up a camp outside of it. And with this, he begins to learn a little more about the other rebels and why the Imperial has betrayed them. Meanwhile, a little later, they see another Imperial shuttle passing by, and after Cassian's kyber crystal is discovered, and everyone goes to confront him, but Cassian decides to come clean and tells him that he is being here because he's being paid and doesn't want to be backstabbed. So with this, he tells them if anyone's using him as an excuse to back out, not to, because he wants to trust them. And with this, everyone else decides to go on. Mon Mothma and her husband get into another fight. Meanwhile, Cyril is looking over the picture of Cassian's wanted picture and is thinking over what has happened so far. The rebels go and make some of the final preparations for the attack the next day, while Luthen thinks over how this is a great risk and sees how it could go pretty poorly. Cassian and Karis begin to talk more about the mission and what they're doing there. Meanwhile, back at the base, the Imperial Architect has finally arrived, and Lieutenant Gorn is meeting with him. Gorn and his superior begin to talk and mention how his superior wants to get off this planet and thinks that this is going to be the best opportunity for him to be able to leave. Cassian's team goes and checks in with the others just to make sure they're in position as the people going up to the watch the eye begin to approach towards the base, and Valencent are nearly discovered, but manage to fight away from the Imperials before anyone could catch on to where they were. The superior officer goes and gets his family ready to go with him to the ceremony tonight, although his son doesn't want to. He makes him go because he wants to get off this world and wants to have the architect have his best experience possible. Cassian and the rest of the group take their position as the rear guard behind the Voyagers to see the eye, and they go to stand at attention as they begin to get their orders with the rest of the troops there, and they also wonder where the rest of their team is at the time. And they are at the base trying to scale the wall, but waiting for an opportunity to get up since they can hear some of the officers talking above. And they do manage to get to the communication station and set a device that will go and jam communications. After doing that, they escape back down into the water. The Imperials go and offer a fur to the people who went to see the eye and then are heading back into the base. Cassian and the rest of the team go and follow them. Once they are inside, they use their weapons and force everyone to surrender. The rest of the team meets up with them and they take everyone prisoner. Using his family and the rest of his men as hostage, they convince the base to go and let them into the vault, thinking that they're crazy. He agrees because he doesn't want his family to be harmed. Cassian and the rest of the crew go and continue to take over the base, taking more hostages. And at the top of the base, the people working in the communication system begin to notice that the communications are out and begin to discuss what this means with each other. Making it into the vault, they take even more hostages, but want to use these to go and help them load up the transport. Having the commander go and open the vault, they then go and use a device to blow the locks on them so they can begin to steal the credits. The Imperials finally manage to start hearing the communications of the rebels and see that they are in great trouble. With it, they go and begin to send troops down to go and help in the vault. The rebels, making the Imperials work with them, begin to load up the tubes of credits. As the Imperials begin their march down to the vault to take care of the rebels, the eye begins. Gorn comes down into the vault and reveals that he is a traitor. And with this, at the same time, the Imperial TIE fighter pilots begin to go and prepare their fighters to go check on the base. The troops manage to reach the vault, and although they are suspicious at first, Gorn tries to go and calm them down until the commander passes out and they begin to open fire. Gorn is quickly shot down, and Cassian runs in to go prepare the ship for takeoff. He is quickly ambushed by another Imperial and is trying to fight him off. And then in the firefight, Verhona tries to go and help Vel, but is shot down by the Imperials. Cassian is saved by Karis. Meanwhile, the TIE fighters launch from the base. Karis is crushed by the credits while they try to escape through the tunnels. The ship manages to blast out shortly after. With Karis injured, they are forced to go and give him a Bacta shot and to know that he is in a bad condition and have to make a decision about what to do with him. But first, they have to escape from the TIE fighters, flying into the eye and using the navigation device. They manage to escape, with the TIE fighters being destroyed by the eye. Cinta manages to escape from the base and goes to join the crowds when they leave. The remaining rebels on the ship decide what they should do about Karis, and they decide to go and get him medical help. The doctor begins to operate on him, and Cassian goes out and begins to talk with Skeen, and with it, he reveals that he's not as into the cause as everyone thought. He lied about his origin and backstory and wants to run off with Cassian and split the take 50-50. Cassian kills him and then goes in and learns that Karis didn't make it. Cassian tells them about Skeen. He then tells her to take the Kyber crystal. He's going to take his cut and leave. Before he does, Val gives him Karis's manifesto. After taking it, Cassian leaves. The ISB are all called in and told they have a big investigation to go into. Mon Mothma tries to address the Imperial Senate, but sees how no one is paying attention to her and are all busy with their own things. Back at Luthen's shop, he is attending to some customers where one asks if he has anything from Aldani, saying that there was a rebel strike there recently. Luthen tells him that he's going to go check in the back to see if there's anything and begins to laugh, realizing that the rebels were able to succeed in robbing the base. Cyril continues to be frustrated with his mother, who has now talked to his uncle and has got him a job interview at another location. Meanwhile, ISB Colonel Yularen goes to meet with the ISB and tells them that the Emperor is very concerned by this and tells them far more changes that are going to be made and that the ISB is going to have far less problems when they want to go and look for information. Mon Mothma goes to visit with Luthen Royal to see if he is behind the attack on Aldani. After she does get it confirmed, she tells him that this was too far of an extreme move, as Luthen explains that this is something that has to be done, and if she isn't going to be willing to see people be sacrificed, that she should get out now. Cyril goes to the job interview and clearly does not want to be working there. With it, Cyril is explaining everything that happened on his previous mission and how everything went so wrong, but he's trying to get things cleared up, accepting that he is told that he is going to get the job. Deidre goes and meets with the ISB agent and tells him to go and give him all the information she needs based on stuff stolen from the Empire. Back in Aldani, Clinton notices a Imperial Star Destroyer coming into the planet as she goes off. Clea goes and meets with Val, who they talks about their mission, and Val is told that she has to go and kill Cassian Andor since he is a loose end, and with him leaving, that causes a great problem. Andor returns to Ferrix to try and get his mother out. Mon Mothma is at the party planned by her husband and meets up with an old childhood friend and wants to go and have things planned out so she can start funding the rebellion on her own. With it, they begin to talk, and although she can't say the specifics, she sees that it is true that he does not like the Empire, and with it, she goes and confides in him, asking him to help set up an account, and telling him it's better if he doesn't know what it's for, telling him not to mention anything to her husband. She goes and begins to continue to just be with her husband and put up the facade that she told her friend was a fake one. Cassian goes to meet with Bix and confirm everything that's been going on, and he wants to see if his old friend is doing well. With it, she tells him that he needs to get off the world, that everyone hates him here, and blames him for the Imperial presence. With it, Cassian does say goodbye, and he'll be leaving soon, and goes to return home. But on the way back, he hears stormtroopers marching, and flashes back to the time where his adopted father tries to stop a protest, but with it, the protest gets violent as people begin to throw rocks, and a group of clone troopers turn around to go and take everyone their way. Returning home, Cassian talks to his mother, who said she was inspired by the job in Aldani to go and stay there and to help out with a rebellion. And with it, Cassian is frustrated but realizes he can't get his mother to leave, who tells him not to look for his sister because she is likely dead since there is no survivors from his home world. And with that, Cassian goes and leaves. Back at the ISB, things are continuing to get intense as Blevin tries to get action done against Deidre, but she points out that she has been able to find connections, being able to use the ISB resources, and at least temporarily is given jurisdiction over Ferrix so she could go and look into her suspicions more. And on her way out, she is warned that she needs to watch her back. After some amount of time has passed, Cassian has gone to another world to go and hide out. With it, he is going out to just get some groceries from the store, and on the way, there's a chase happening between shore troopers and some unknown criminals, likely rebels. He tries to avoid them and just get to the store, but since he is looking around just to see what's going on and try and get an idea and hopefully that no one's after him, he is pulled aside by a shore trooper who thinks that he is acting suspiciously, and with it, Cassian is being arrested because they believe he is part of this operation, even though he isn't, and tries to plead his innocence. A security droid is sent over to watch him, who grabs him and strangles him, trying to plead his innocence. This does not work and actually gets him sentenced, moved up from 6 months to 6 years. And with it, Cassian is now sent to prison. Returning to Cyril, it is shown he has accepted the job, and he clearly doesn't like it, and does not want to be there, but continues to do it for now. ISB agents are sent to go and collect Cyril Karn for questioning with the events on Ferrex, and him repeatedly going and asking questions about Cassian Andor at his job. At the same time, Cassian is arriving at the prison on Narkina 5 as the shuttle goes in to land there. Deidre begins her interrogation of Cyril, asking if he even knows what is on the Ferrex report. Cyril says no, that he was just forced to sign it, and Deidre tells him to give him a copy of the report on Ferrex. Now at an ISB meeting, Deidre goes and gives an update to the rest of the ISB and Colonel Yularen on everything going on with the investigation into Cassian Andor and the rebellion as a larger entity. Cassian finally arrives at the prison where he gets his last taste of fresh air, at least for a while, and then the guards begin to explain their situation. They activate an electrified floor, explaining that they have no weapons. That's because they can electrify the floor. What just happened is level 1, and at the highest, it will be instant death. Deidre goes and meets with Cyril once again, who pleads for her to take him on with the ISV so he could help take down Andor. Deidre rejects him and sends him back to his life. With this, Cyril is disappointed and returns home under the threat that if he continues to look into Cassian Andor, he will be arrested and sent to an Imperial prison. Back in the Imperial prison Cassian is at, he is brought to his new level where he'll be working. With it, he meets the floor manager, Kino Loy, and with it, Kino explains everything to him, how they need to be productive, and with it, he'll be working in a team, and whichever team does the best for the day will be rewarded with flavored food, and the team that does the worst will be punished by electrocution. Introduced to the group he'll be working with, Cassian begins to learn how to do the work. Mon Mothma once again meets up with Tay, and they discuss how it's becoming harder and harder to hide her money to go and fund the rebellion. With it, she is told that he is looking into some other solutions. Back in the prison, Cassian notices that there is a new code between the prisoners, and with it, he sees that they have a way to communicate with each other between levels. Interested, Cassian begins to look on. Cassian is now brought to his new living quarters, and with it, he is looking around, seeing how the floor is electrified at night, and how you'll be able to eat food and everything throughout his cell. With it, Cassian begins to look around and see if there's any way to escape. After 30 shifts, Cassian has become used to this work and is going around the facility moving at his best possible speed. Back on Ferrex, Bix goes to check on Cassian's mother, and with it, across the street is seen that Vel is spying on them, so she could see if Cassian will return to Ferrex. Bix tries to contact Luthen to see if she could learn any information about Cassian, but Luthen is convinced that he has to shut down the communication system and disconnects himself from Ferrex completely. Luthen then goes to meet with a contact for the rebellion. Back at the prison, one of the prisoners attempts to escape at night, but is instantly killed once he hits the floor. Bix and Selman are attempted to be arrested by the Imperials. Bix is able to run, but Selman is taken into custody. Luthen begins to meet with Saw Gerrera And through this, they begin to make out plans where Guerrero wants some equipment, and Luthen wants him to join into a larger rebellion, although Saw does not want to. Bix is captured and brought into Imperial custody, where she sees the terrible condition that Selman was in after he is dragged out by Imperial interrogators, and soon sees how much trouble she is in when Deidre begins to interrogate her, saying they can either do this the nice way or do it the painful way through torture. And Bix sees that it will have to be torture because she knows that they will not believe her. And with that, Deidre introduces her to an Imperial doctor who has made a terrifying device which plays the audio of dying children of a species that drives people insane when they listen to this sound for a long period of time. With this, Bix is terrified as is placed on, and she is tormented by the sounds. And back at the prison, Cassian begins to put out the basics of an escape plan, seeing that the ground to the elevator cannot be electrocuted, and with it, he puts that away for later. A broken Bix begins to tell Deidre what she knows, and after telling her everything, Deidre decides to leave her around as bait. Mon Mothma once again tries to address the Senate, but with it, no one is paying attention to her. And on level 2 of the facility, something has happened, causing panic throughout the rest of the levels. Mon Mothma meets up with Vel, who is revealed to be her cousin, and with this, Mon tells Vel that she needs to go and lay low for a while. Andor tries to convince Kino to tell him how many guards would be on the level, but Kino, with his sentence almost being done, does not want to go and deal with this, and refuses to go and tell Cassian anything. Cassian says the Imperials aren't listening to them because they don't care, but Kino still refuses to tell him anything. Deidre goes and informs all the ISB about the information she was able to get out of Bix. Cyril's mom is going off on him again until Cyril reveals that he got promoted at his job. Cyril then goes to the ISB headquarters to thank Deidre for the promotion, and with it he begs her to let him on the case, but Deidre tells him that she will have him arrested if she ever sees him here again. Mon and Tay continue to discuss everything with the finances, and Tay gives her a suggestion which she does not like, where she has to meet up with a shady person from Chandrila to be able to go and hide her money. Deidre goes and shows more of her dedication helping plan out a plot to go and take out rebels using a captured pilot and his fighter. One of the workers with Cassian named Olaf goes and begins to pass out with them, sending everyone ahead. Cassian and Kino stay behind to wait for medics, and when they arrive, he is put down by the medic, and with this, everything is explained about level 2 to Cassian and Kino. He reveals to them that no one actually is able to get out of the prison alive, and with that, when it was learned on level 2, everyone on the level was executed, and after this, Cassian is able to finally get Kino to relent and tell him how many guards are on the level. With this, they go and begin to plan their escape. Kino and Cassian begin to discuss what they have learned, and with it, Cassian convinces Kino that they need to escape, and goes and informs the rest of the prisoners that there is no way out for them, and with it, if they want to get out, they have to escape. With it, the group gets very riled up and prefers to escape from the prison the next day. Back at the ISB, their plan is going very well to go and take out the rebel base, and with it, they have gone and successfully set their trap and are now waiting for the rebels to go and try and take the bait. Kino gives one final speech telling them that they need to go and escape from the prison today, and this is going to be their last best chance. With it, he says that they're done with being on program and they're done following the rules and counting down the days. They're going to be escaping today. Back on Ferrex, it's learned that Cassian's mother is refusing to take her medication and is getting worse. Back on Coruscant, Mon Mothma and Tay meet with Davos Golden, and with it, he says that he will go and help them move Mon's money around, and with it, he wants to introduce his son to Mon Mothma's daughter, and Mon is disgusted by this and tells him to get out of her house. She tells him it will never happen, and Davos simply replies that this is the first lie that she told him. Luthen is contacted by his spy in the ISB and is told that he has vital information. And although it could be a trap, he realizes that if it is a trap, he's already dead and goes to meet with him. Cassian manages to break through the pipe, and with it, water begins to flood out. As Ulaf's replacement is brought in, a riot begins inside the prison so they can cause a distraction and begin to escape. With it, once they have the mechanism jammed, they try to electrocute the floors, but the water short circuits it, and with it, the prisoners are overjoyed and begin their attack. Managing to climb the disabled elevator, Cassian goes and takes out one of the guards, taking their blasters so they can have an advantage, and helps take down other guards so more of the prisoners can take weapons. Going level by level, they go and begin to start liberating the crews that are on shift as Cassian and Kino go up to take the control center. Going to the people in the control center with their blasters, they make them go and shut off the main power to the prison. As Kino goes and takes over the intercom system, giving a speech to the entire prison, telling them that this is their only chance to get out of this prison, and with it, they need to go and help their fellow prisoners and get out of there. And with it, he begins a chant, "One way out." And with this terrifies all the guards as the prisoners begin to escape. Kino reveals to Cassian at the exit that he cannot swim, as Cassian is pushed over the edge and begins to escape with the other prisoners. The rebel spy in the ISB, Lonnie, goes up to meet with Luthen, and once he arrives there, he says that he wants out. He does not want to sacrifice his daughter, who was recently born, and with it, she is his top priority. He tells him of the trap that is being set and just begs to be let out of it so he can retire from the ISB and raise his family. And with it, Luthen tells him no, and in anger, Lonnie asks what has Luthen sacrificed, and with it, Luthen tells him everything he has sacrificed. He tells him how he sacrificed his decency, everything that's good about him, and has made himself just as bad as his enemy, so he can go and give people in future generations a better life. And with it, he knows he won't be able to enjoy any of this, and he has sacrificed his soul for this cause. And back at the prison, Cassian has finally managed to make it to dry land where he runs off to freedom. Cassian and Milshi, after managing to escape from the prison, are still looking to find their way out, climbing up mountains, avoiding patrols, so they could find a way off the planet. Back on Ferrix, Marva has passed away, and at the same time, Cassian and Melshi see a quad jumper where there is a few aliens by it, and they go to try and steal it. But they are quickly captured by the owners who decide to have mercy on them and fly them back to Neumos. And back on Coruscant, Vel goes to visit Luthen, although he's not there. She goes and passes on the information that Cassian's mother has passed away. Meanwhile, Bix continues to be threatened with torture as she is asked if Krieger was her contact. And Vel goes to meet with Mon Mothma, who is her cousin. They discuss the financing problems that Mon is having with hiding the money she's using to fund the rebellion. Back with Cyril, he is contacted by his friend Mosk, and with it he tells him that Cassian's mother has passed away, and he is most likely going to be returning to Ferrix. Back in Neumos, Cassian is able to go and get his equipment back and all the money he got from the Aldani heist. Luthen goes to visit with Saw Gerrera, telling him that the mission is off and he knows that Krieger is about to be taken out by the Imperials. With it, Saw begins to argue with him, wondering why he wants to be protecting him, and realizes that he's one of the only people that could tie Luthen to the rebellion, and with it, Saw ultimately agrees not to go on to this and lets Krieger be sacrificed. While trying to leave, Luthen is intercepted by an Imperial ship. The ship begins to attack him, and he is forced to use the various weapons on the ship to escape from it and not be questioned at all. With it, after escaping, Luthen is in contact and decides to go to Ferrix to try and intercept Cassian. With his first chance he gets, Cassian is able to go and contact back to Ferrix to see how his mother is. After learning that she has died, he goes back to Melshi, and Melshi wants to go and let people know of what has happened with the prison. Cassian gives him a blaster and goes to travel to Ferrix to attend his mother's funeral. Everyone begins to ascend on Ferrix, with Deidre landing there with an escort of death troopers. Cyril arrives with his friend. Cassian manages to arrive, and many of the other people, like Vel and Luthen, also arrive. Cassian goes to visit Bix and is quickly surprised to learn that she has been taken by the Imperials and is being tortured by them. And back at the main facility, Deidre goes and begins to look at the plans for them to capture Cassian and makes it clear he needs to be taken alive. Back on Coruscant, Mon goes to argue with Perrin and sets up a scenario where she says that he is still gambling to help cover the fact that she is using her money to fund the rebellion, making their driver, which she knows is an ISB mole, be able to think that the missing money from her account is being used by Perrin. Luthen goes to Vel to go and tell her of his plan to let the Imperials capture Cassian and then to assassinate him as he's being brought to the hotel. Cassian meets up with Brasso, who goes and tells him everything that his mother told him to tell him after she knew she wasn't going to be making it. And with it, Cassian is very touched with it and decides to go and rescue Bix. The people of Ferrix go and begin Marva's funeral early. With it, they all begin to converge down the street in a group larger than wasn't permitted by the Imperials to honor Marva and all she has done. With it, Cassian, watching and from a hidden location, goes and begins to execute his plan to break into the hotel to rescue Bix. The Imperials are sent out and are forced to try and go up against the people of Ferrix, as they have done this earlier than they were supposed to. In the middle of Rick's Road, they have blocked the people off from going any further as B2 comes up and begins to project a message from Marva. With it, she begins to explain everything and begins to speak of her beliefs of how the Empire is a major threat, and with it, as everyone listens, she tells the people to rise up against the Empire and to take it down, knowing that even though she is dead, that they need to fight on and use this to go and fight for their freedom and rights. Knocking over B2 to try and stop this, the people of Ferrix rise up and begin to attack the Imperials using anything they can, including the brick that Marva was turned into, to begin an uprising against the Empire. Managing to make it into Bix's cell, Cassian goes and eventually convinces her to be able to escape, seeing that she has been broken. And back on the streets, the Imperials are being overrun by the people who are fighting with a true passion, and Deidre is knocked down and is nearly going to be beaten to death when someone goes up to her, pulls her up, and uses her blaster to move her away, bringing her inside of a building. She quickly sees that it is Cyril, who has used this opportunity to rescue her. Chaos continues throughout barracks. Bombs go off. Shootouts happen with the Imperials. And events just get so much more crazy. With it, they eventually get to a point where some of the people are trying to escape from the planet. And Cassian manages to go and get Bix to some of his allies as he goes off to confront Luthen. Back on Coruscant, Mon is forced to make the decision where she is having to go and present her daughter to Evo's family. And although she's clearly devastated by this, she knows that this is the only way to protect the rebellion. Finally, back on Ferrix, Cassian breaks into Luthen's ship and confronts him. With it, he tells Luthen that if he wants to, he could kill him, or he could take him in to join the rebellion. Above the world of Scarif, it is shown that the parts made inside of the prison have been used to construct the Death Star's super laser. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.